Hello and welcome back to my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode. Now starting off here in the livery section because I've adjusted the livery just because the old one was a little bit boring. I still think it fits the Wallace theme, so we're going to stick with that. And I'm also going to upgrade our, I think that was powertrain department. I'm not quite sure what that is, just went too quickly. But jumping straight into practice one then at Circuit Zandvoort. Purpling our track acclimatization lap, but and just after that we got probably my best save I've ever had. We can look from the onboard here. Got a huge tank slapper coming out of that off camber corner, but managed to hold it there. I'm really proud of that actually. So yeah, and I had what could have been a save, but ended up in a crash. So that's a little bit more embarrassing than the first one. Tyre management program, low tyre wear on the second lap, which is pretty good, and just coasting so much on the exit here, barely making it across the line with optimal fuel usage. Had about 10th left in it there, but qualifying pace, rather ERS pace, is a lot better because we crossed the line purple with 8/10 remaining. Quali pace, we're up by a full 10th here, target 19th, objective has been completed, and now on to race strategy. The car felt really good around here. I love this circuit, especially when you compare it to the absolute awfulness that is Vietnam a couple of races ago. But yeah, we're consistently about a second up on our race strategy program. A little bit of lag from the stream there. That's going to be constant throughout this. I'm sorry for that. But yeah, I think we purpled all of our practice programs, or maybe not qualifying pace, but that's pretty good. But as we skip on, I have yet another Spinella moment. I think that's been a feature in 3 out of the 5 races we've had so far. But coming on to qualifying one then, just going off our first lap, the banker lap on the mediums was pretty sloppy. That only puts us in P7. Ahead of Russell on the softs though, which is pretty good pace. But now we're on to the final lap of Q1, just crossing the line with a few seconds remaining. The car, as I said, did feel good around here, and we're already ahead of Louis Delatraz, our teammate, on the harder compound tyre, and we're just about 7/8 up going into the middle sector, I think this is. Activating DRS nicely there, and now coming onto the banking. Is it going to be enough to relegate us out of Q1 into Q2? Let's have a look as we go onto the final straight and cross the line. It's P10, which I think is our best performance in qualifying to date. In qualifying one at least, yeah. It's gone really well. P10's not where I expected to be. Louis Delatraz all the way down there, 10 positions off. He's 1.2 seconds off the pace. But into Q2 then, after that terrible disappointment. Coming off the end of our first lap here. Not sure whether this is a good one or not. Doesn't look to be. We're in P10 right now, just in front of Lando Norris, and P15 now as we go on to the final lap of Q2 once again with a few seconds remaining on the clock. Cutting it really fine there. I think we're the last car out on track once again. Trying to get the best lap possible because obviously Q2 matters a lot more than Q1 for us at this point in time. But as we go into the second sector, it's going to be really, really sloppy. Like, I just turn in way too early here and then go out wide, took one wheel on the gravel there in the grass, and it's just not worth continuing. I don't think we're 7/8 down now. We're not going to gain up any time, so I'll just go ahead and retire from the session. Which is a shame because I felt like I could have been on for a good lap there. There was some time to be gained from the banker lap, but, you know, obviously I couldn't extract the pace from the car. Messed up a couple of times, and looks like we're finishing where we were before. Let's check where we actually are, because we might have dropped down a place. No, we are still in P15, so that's not as bad a result. It could have happened, but not too good.
It was 35 years ago that the late great Niki Lauda took his 25th and final Grand Prix win here at Zandvoort. He came from 10th on the grid to beat his McLaren teammate Alain Prost by just 0.2 of a second. Well, Zandvoort is a very different circuit today, of course, but still one with an incredible legacy. And we're going to add to that. Welcome along to the 2020 Dutch Grand Prix. A lap of this short 2.6 mile Zandvoort circuit features 14 corners, 10 to the right and 4 to the left. The main straight is 678 metres long into turn 1, the Tarzan corner. With DRS down the main straight into the braking zone, that could be the best overtaking opportunity on the track. Joining us today to oversee all the thrills and spills, it's Anthony Davidson. And great to see you. How are you feeling about the race today, and how are the circuit conditions from what you've seen?
Well, it's looking a bit cold out there, if I'm honest. These tyres have quite a narrow operating window in terms of the temperatures they need to extract the best grip. So with a cold track surface, it's going to be harder to keep those temperatures up, which will lead to lower grip and maybe more mistakes.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Vettel, Max Verstappen and Albon, Perez, Stroll, Gasly and Daniel Kvyat, Ricciardo, Ocon, Kimi Räikkönen, Rose, Norris, Magnussen, Carlos Sainz. They've taken a grid penalty, and Roman Grosjean, Giovinazzi, Delatraz, Russell and Nicholas Latifi. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Here we are then, on the grid for the Dutch Grand Prix. Almost said Danish there, I always get mixed up with those two. But a soft, hard strategy is what they're expecting, but as you can see in the top of the screen, there is going to be some rain halfway through the race, so that could come into play about halfway through. Hopefully we can be prepared for that. And it's 1 light, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights for the Dutch Grand Prix. Lights out, and away we go from P14 in the grid. We get a pretty good start alongside Kimi Räikkönen alongside us, and even trying to overtake Esteban Ocon ahead. Maybe can send it down the inside of turn 1, and we actually make up 2 positions there. We are still 3 wide with the Renault and the Alfa beside us, but we managed to just sneak ahead, and we can go around the outside of this camber corner here. Here's the outside view of it. 3 wide going into the first sector, but we do manage to maintain P12 from Esteban Ocon and Kimi Räikkönen, but I forget to switch it up into overtake here, which means that Kimi is going to come back at us on the inside. I'll leave him the space, but he doesn't decide to go for the move rather well there. So we're just trying to hang back and try to keep on the edge Danny Kvyat here. Maybe even go for a dive if he gets held up by Danny Ricciardo ahead. And Pierre Gasly ahead of him. The AlphaTauri is looking very strong at this track. But skipping on to the end of lap 1 now, almost got the back of Danny Kvyat as he goes 2 wide with Danny Ricciardo. We've put 2 wheels on the gravel, which is going to send us down the order. Almost back to, and yeah, we do get behind Esteban Ocon, but we're going to use 3-3 to try and everything to get back ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. It was an excellent dive on both cars there. No contact made, and here's the onboard. I just managed to swerve through the right as Kimi locks up. It was a fair bit of luck involved in that, but I'm very, very happy with that move. Might be a contester for move of the season so far with the one we made at China. But as the stream lags, we do manage to get past Danny Kvyat on the right-hand side. But he's going to come back at us because once again, I forget to turn it up into overtake. This is my problem in races. I always forget to turn it up into overtake ERS mode because I'm just not really still used to it on this game. But we're going to send it up the inside of Danny Kvyat here, making a little bit of contact, but managing to get the move done. We don't have any wing damage, thankfully. Going out a little bit wider on this corner, but he's not close enough anymore to come back at us. So that's P11 from P15 on the grid, which is really, really good from us. Actually, it might have been P14 because of someone's penalty, but on lap 5 we have now caught up to the racing point of Sergio Perez with Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly ahead. Maybe we can go for a move here because we're only 5/10 off him in the DRS zone, and we've got that long straight to look forward to now. Although the racing point, obviously with its Mercedes engine, is pretty quick in the straight, so I don't think we'll be able to keep up with him without DRS and our overtake ERS once again. Going into the penultimate corner now, almost putting a wheel on the gravel once again. I'm taking it really risky around there. And now, as you can see, the rain has started to fall. You can just see on my halo there. So we're skipping to lap 9 because nothing really happened here, but we're going to go up the inside of Sergio Perez onto this long isn't straight here, and even without overtake, he must have been saving energy or fuel something there because we're up into P10 as the rain starts tipping it down now. It wasn't actually that difficult to control the car beforehand, so that's why I didn't really spend too much time on that. But here we go then. I think this is our time to pit, putting 2 wheels on the grass. Everyone comes in. DRS is still enabled for some reason, but which usually gets disabled when it's raining. But for everyone else is pitting, so I decided to come in as well because it's getting very, very slippery out on track. Hopefully the team can give us a good stop. But wait a second. They've put me on the hards. That wasn't supposed to happen. So now we're on the wrong compound tire, and I try and rewind this, but I'm just too far back. I can't switch the pit stop to inters, and I don't know why they've put me on hards, because I would have thought that since every other AI is going on inters and I got told to box, I thought they were just telling us to box for inters, but the team have made a critical error here. So we're out in P11. We have lost 1 position in the pit stops, but it's undrivable on these new hard compound tires, almost losing the car around every corner, and we do indeed go off there. Sergio Perez sends it up the inside on his wet green wall tires. But now we're telling Jeff that we need to box this lap to put on the inters. We will have only done 1 lap in these hards, so when it dries out later in the race, we will still use these. But we're dropping positions now to the Alpha and the McLaren. I'm just trying to get it through the lap, because it's so hard to control on these hards, because the rain has just started tipping it down now in about a lap. So it's the team's fault, because, you know, I was under the impression that they were just going to put us on inters. You could say it was my fault for not checking, but yeah, I don't know. We're on inters now, but we are out in P18 behind Lando Norris, just crossing over the white line there and getting a warning for it. But really, I've got bigger fish to fry here. I don't really care. But skipping on to lap 13 now, I've tried to gain on Lando Norris, but he's just kept pulling away from us. And George Russell behind is gaining on us once again. It's really not looking good for us or our pace here on the inters, because P3, practice 3, was in wet conditions, so I did get some practice, but I did notice that I wasn't going too well. But as you can see now, all the AI coming into the pits once again because it's dry enough for softs, and Jeff hasn't asked me to pit at all. Louis Delatraz has come into the pits, as you can see from the top of my screen back then. Teammate is in the pits, but I haven't been asked to pit, so he's completely screwed me once again. We've been left out to dry, quite literally, by the team. So once again, we're going to have to make another late pit stop call. We're going to go 1 more lap on these inters. You can see I'm just losing time to both cars behind and in front of us. And Jeff, lap 23 for inters. I don't know what's going on inside his tiny mind. He's just, to him, it's still wet enough for inters. I don't know what's going on, but we're going to pit for our 3rd stop of the race on lap 15. We're not even halfway through this race. Struggling to find the gear there. But as we exit the pit lane, we're actually behind our teammate. And I think that's the first time in this entire career mode that I've been behind Louis Delatraz at any point in any race. So, yeah, it's not looking good for us. We're down in the dumps a little bit in this race, but we're going to try and hang on to Louis Delatraz, and indeed a couple of laps later, even though I'm on hards and he's on softs, I've managed to catch up to him, which just goes to show the amount of pace that I have over him. I don't know when his contract ends, but I'm praying that it's soon, so I can sign a better driver. But as Valtteri Bottas puts in the fastest lap, we are way off that. Just entering the middle sector now, it's definitely dry enough. Now there's not even a hint of rain in the air, so I think it should stay dry to the end of the race. Right at the back of our teammate now, with only Grosjean and Latifi behind us. So maybe we can go for a mega send up in the up at turn 1, and indeed that's what we do. Up the inside, no contact made. Might have been actually on the exit there, but yeah, that's a pretty good move from us. Huge Danny Rick dive, which I'm pretty proud of. And now, a couple of laps later, we have got DRS on George Russell, and this is just going to be a montage of overtaking as we did in Bahrain a few races ago, because now their softs are going to be going out of their league and our hards are going to be coming into their own now, as we're on a green lap on these hard compound tyres. We go a 112.9, half a second faster than what it was before, and we overtake Antonio Giovinazzi in the pits, who is putting on a new set of softs, which could come into play later on in the race. So I'm quite scared of that, really, as now Kevin Magnussen and Danny Kvyat jump into the pits. Kvyat's a little bit too far up the road for me to make a move on him, but we are back up into P16 now, and it's my aim to at least get back up to my qualifying position. If I can do that after all of what my team has put me through in this race, then I'll be happy with that result. But as you can see, Antonio Giovinazzi is closing in on us, so I'm quite scared of him now, because we got 10 more laps, and that, you know, that could play into his favour as Lando Norris now comes into the pits. So we're back up into P15, which would have been our starting position had, I forget who got the penalty, but someone did. Esteban Ocon just out of our reach there. But as we go on to lap 28, there's going to be a yellow flag behind us. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but it is Antonio Giovinazzi who's had an engine failure. His engine's just completely blown up. So that has taken him completely out of contention for our position, which, I mean, that's a weight off my shoulders, and as the game registers him as being out, the virtual safety car is deployed. Luckily enough, nothing really happened, so we're going to skip on lap 30, lap 31, and lap 32, now in rapid succession, trying to gain on the Frenchman ahead of us, and then we are gaining a little bit as Lewis Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the race now on his worn softs, I can only guess, which just goes to show how much pace that Mercedes has, although we are only about a second and a half off his lap. But we're now trying to catch Esteban Ocon ahead. The gap has gone down over those 3 laps. You could probably go back and see on those that little montage that we did of those 3 laps in succession. But yeah, this happened. But we're not going to talk about that because the flashback button exists. So we're going to continue as we go on to the final lap now. Esteban Ocon right ahead of us. I am in his DRS zone now, and as Lewis Hamilton wins the Grand Prix, almost a lap ahead of us as he sends it around the final corner here to win the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. It's all eyes on us once again. I think I've said that for the 5th race in a row, as we're just trying everything desperately to catch up to Esteban Ocon in his Renault ahead of us. Using all of our fuel in ERS that we don't have. We've got minus 0.1 laps of fuel, so we're going to need to save it, and we've got 0% ERS pretty much around there. Even so, we do a green first sector. We are in 7/10 of him ahead, and there are 2 more DRS zones up ahead to look forward to, so we could even make a move on him here. But really, with our tyres gone off now, he's out of the DRS zone now anyway, 1.1 seconds ahead. I don't think we're going to be able to make a move. So we're going to have to save fuel as we go into the final couple of corners. So I don't want to run out on the line for Lando Norris to miraculously send one behind us. Kevin Magnussen 28 seconds behind him. But it looks like as we round the final corner, it's going to be P15 for Wallace Racing at Zandvoort.
That's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Ferme.
Many doubted whether they could pull off the win here in Zandvoort, but they have done, and done it in spectacular style. Talk to me, Ant. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it. So, let's review the drivers' standings. More points for Valtteri Bottas, further solidifying his lead at the top of the table. Now, let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
Well, for me, it's got to be Lewis Hamilton. The multiple world champion may be the boring choice at this point, but you can't argue that he's a driver deserving of his reputation.
Let's move on to the Constructors. Mercedes moved to the top of the table. Meanwhile, good work from Racing Point this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time? Be sure to join us again as we continue to bring you the latest excitement in Formula One.
So there you have it then. Not the best race, probably the worst race we've had in this season. I think it's our worst result. Yeah.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that. It's safe to say you're smashing everyone's expectations, isn't it?
Well, not in this race, Claire. I'm definitely exceeding the expectations they had of Louis. Definitely.
How do you feel the weather affected the outcome today?
I don't want to talk about it, you know?
Do you think you were lucky not to end your race with that crash?
I don't know what you mean, Claire. I don't know what you mean. Simple as that.
Great. Well, that's everything.
That's everything indeed. We further increase our lead on our rival Romain Grosjean, 18 points to 9. We seem to be doubling his score every time we go racing, which is pretty good for us. I'm now on the same level of acclaim as Louis Delatraz, which, I mean, it took me long enough. But, yeah, thank you all so much for watching. This race wasn't very good, but hopefully we can redeem ourselves next time out at Catalonia for the Spanish Grand Prix. I hope to see you all next time. I stream these races live on Twitch if you want to come laugh at me. Yeah, thank you all so much for watching. See you all in the next one.